Apoorv, you've been an insider on Flipkart, Amazon, Vodafone, Apple. What's like common thread between their marketing?
They think. I remember coming from Flipkart and Amazon, I was like, let's do this, let's try this. Apple is like, what? Think, do we really want to do this? How would they feel? Nobody had asked me a question in my career so far about how would a customer feel.
Apoorv Sharma,
a point leader who brought back Apple from dead in India,
joins India's largest coaching institute as the chief marketing officer.
The man behind Flipkart's first big billion day.
I want to show you a video on Twitter.
तो इतने सारे पैसे लेकर आए हो तो किस लिए लेकर आए हो फोन? आईफोन खरीदने के लिए क्या आए हो?
I shared this with the team and my message to them was, congrats, we are now a cultural change in India and not just a brand.
Apple, when they entered in 2018, it was almost called like a failure. People being in lines at Apple stores when the new iPhone launches. What's really behind this?
A lot of people focus so much time on the hype creation that they don't spend as much time on the reveal.
What were some of the insights that really worked in the first PPD?
If I purchase 10 pen drives for 100 rupees each, the first 3 pen drives I will sell at 3 rupees. So I'm making a huge loss there. But the other pen drives I will sell at a profit. My key objective that time was not to make money. My key objective that time was to get a customer to try e-commerce. यार देखो तो सही क्या होता है.
Also, we are glad to be part of the 01 network by Zerodha. Now let's get back to the episode.
Apoorv, you've been an insider on Amazon, Flipkart, Vodafone, Apple. These companies have so good marketing. Undeniably, the one of the best companies to do marketing for their own products. What's like common thread between their marketing? What really ticks in these companies?
I've seen it change company to company, and here's my hypothesis. Some of the best marketing, and I've seen the large companies do really well, is they think. They don't just say idea to execution quickly. There is a lot of thinking that goes into it, right? And I've seen 2 different models. At a company like Apple, they don't kid when they say that they think of 1,000 ideas, shoot down 999 of them, and go live with one. That was my life for 6 years. Getting ideas shot down one after the other. Keep refining your craft until you come up with the best idea. That's one model. You do a lot of thinking. A lot of people think somebody like an Amazon doesn't think they'd move fast, right? That's not true. And Amazon iterates very fast. And because they do things at a very large scale. So the superpower that large companies have and are built over time is that they're running multiple experiments in parallel. You just see the ones which are successful. They blow that up.
Hey, before we go ahead, I need a minute of yours. What you are listening to is Apoorv's 2 decades worth of storytelling wisdom. See, storytelling today is not just a skill limited to marketers anymore. Think about it. When you are asking a friend for help, you are telling them a story. When you are negotiating a salary with your boss, you are telling them a story. You are telling 2 to 4 stories every single day. Getting better at storytelling can literally change the trajectory of your career, which is why we have worked with Apoorv to take all of his experiences of telling stories for brands like Apple, Amazon, Flipkart and more into one learning program, which is we are calling the craft of storytelling. You can check more about the program, the curriculum and a bunch of interesting stuff from the link in the description. Also, there's an early bird pricing till May 4th. I'll let you explore the link and let's go back to our conversation.
Classic case, as a company like Google, they love killing products. I mean, there are so many examples. There is a site I recently went to, where Google Graveyard, all the products that they have launched and killed, right? But they're known for the Chromes and the Androids. Nobody talks about the products that are dead. Those are iterations. And even iterating really fast is also thinking, because you're thinking really fast what's working, what's not working. So I think what I've observed in big brands and brands that have become big over time is that they spend a lot of time thinking and iterating. And when they know something works, scale big. Don't shy away from, don't underball your game, right? Put in everything that you can. these guys risk everything that they're available. And that's the only reason why they've become trillion-dollar companies over time. And even somebody like a Flipkart, they went all in. I mean, when I joined them, they had started on the e-commerce ride, but then this is how the Walmart thing happened. They put everything in. They took all the risk. They did the flash sales, the big billion days. Everybody, we used to have retailers standing outside the door saying that you're going to break retail and commerce in country. You have to put everything in. So they think they have conviction. I've seen this in many startups and small companies. People believe in something, but there's a lot of doubt. Amazon has a very famous principle, and you can see Amazon's leadership principles, which is what they're known for. One of my favorites is called disagree to commit. I really love that, and I live by that every single day. When a bunch of people are in the room, not everybody has to agree. But you can disagree, but commit to something. And when you're committed as a team, then you go all in towards the end. So I think that's the reason why I think that they are what they are. One more thing I want to add to this is, once a company becomes scaled, right? Why do they keep doing this and why do they keep on this success path? The advantage is that the brand becomes bigger than people. That is their biggest superpower. At Apple, when we would talk in meetings and we would have arguments, we would say, Apple won't do this. We would never say, Apoorv won't do this or my boss won't do this. At Apple, we just don't do this. It becomes a culture. It becomes a brand. It becomes an emotion that you live by every single day. So like at Flipkart, even today, it's hustle, it's experiments, it's trial. They would be talking in the office like, guys, you have to try it. Let's see kya hota hai. Somebody like an Ambani, why is an Ambani like, one of my very close friends used to work with the Reliance family, and he would tell me that they have a very simple principle. They're one of the richest people in the world, right? But their principle in negotiation is pooch ke to dekho. And if somebody from my team is listening to me, and they'll relate to this, because even as a CMO, I would tell them somebody has sent a quote for $1,000, I'll say. And the Ambani principle is that underball, like give such a ridiculous quote that the other person feels shy, right? So I would tell my team, if it's $1,000, quote 100. Don't quote 900. Don't quote 500. Quote 100. They will reach to a 300 or a 400, and they might cut a few things. Just pooch ke to dekho. So the examples like this is when the brand becomes bigger than the people. As companies are scaling, the people are the ones that define the brand. So it was Sachin and Binny Bansal, all about Sachin Binny. And it was funny because when I used to write PR articles, it was a joke we used to write, Sachin, Binny Bansal, brackets, not related. The not related always followed their names. Now you don't talk about Kalyan. It is about Flipkart. I mean, Kalyan is an amazing guy. He's driving an amazing company, but it's about Flipkart as a company. Same way, Tim Cook is one of the biggest personalities on the planet. It's always about Apple.
I think we're going to go into specific aspects of this. I want to go to this time where you were part of launching 3G at Vodafone.
Yeah.
And 3G was the 5G or the sexy thing out there.
Yeah. Much bigger.
Much bigger, right? Like I am sure, because 2G was like, you could not do anything with that internet, right? And 3G was like just magic, honestly, right? And I remember they did this whole Zuzu campaign, right? And when I say that, I am imagining it, right? And I'm sure people who are shooting with us right now, they imagine the Zuzu campaign clearly. What went behind that campaign? Can you tell us? What was the insight? How did it come? And how did that go from an insight to building that campaign and a series of videos and ads?
I think the Zuzu idea had started sometime before I had joined Vodafone, but I was in the thick of things when the whole transition of India as a country shifted from voice to data. And in order to understand the brief or the thinking behind a large, attractive or a viral campaign like Zuzu's, so one is, it was a very catchy creative. And who doesn't like fun, simple, easy to digest characters who can easily translate into plush toys in your house, right? So I think there was a virality angle to the creative itself. But it's more fun and interesting to understand what was happening that time. So I'll give you some context. I I spent a lot of time in sales in Vodafone because I was part of the fresh graduate from MBA college management trainee program. And what is a management trainee program all about? And this is where Hindustan Unilever has pioneered this. And Vodafone did a really good job and I had just joined them. It is about roughing you up as a person. And we should talk about how a great marketer is somebody who has been beaten and dusted and understands what works, what doesn't work. So I'd spend a lot of time on ground in the remotest parts of this country, literally sleeves folded, dust all over my clothes, and in sweltering heat, going to retailer by retailer. And that time, my GPS tracking used to go to my boss. So because we had a target, we had to visit 50 shops per day. And that's how even today sales works in FMCG companies. The DSCs, which is the distributor selling agents, sales executives, they're supposed to go on the shop, cover at least X number of shops per day so that at least वहाँ पे voice पहुंची है, right? I used to go sit behind their bikes in muddy areas and go and write plans. Now, a customer that time in telecom in India used to think that if I pay X amount rupees, I get X number of minutes. So the consumer mindset is कि इतने पैसे में इतना minutes मिलेगा. Like I can speak to people for so many X minutes. How does data change that? Very interesting. In a voice category, the equation is X is equal to some form of X. But in data, X is equal to Y. There is a multiplier because data makes a lot more variety of things possible. In a voice segment, you can only speak for 60 seconds when you pay like X amount of rupees, right? But in data, how you use that 1 MB is the mindless amount of possibilities. So number one is we were at the cusp, and this is pre-Geo, by the way, the world, many viewers don't know a world before Geo. This is the pre-Geo world where we had to think of, and why do campaigns like Zuzu really worked well? Because it was about the possibilities of what you can do with that 1 MB data. You could either burn it to watch a video that somebody has sent you. By the way, WhatsApp wasn't as prevalent back then as it is right now. You could use it to download some songs. Music was a huge category. And then, I mean, people remember waiting for 2.5 minutes, looking at that thing going around, download. That is one use of 1 MB. The other is you send a voice message to somebody or you connect with somebody. We had just started introducing, or you start consuming cricket, not video, cricket scores. Data allowed you to be you. And a campaign like Zuzu creatively hooks you, but tells you, and what is unique in Zuzu, right? There's different characters. There's a shy girl, there's a hero who's moving the bat around. It is about celebrating your individuality. And at some level, and that's classic, amazing marketing where the consumer is being told subliminally that you're watching a set of characters through this brand, which allow you to experience your own personal self through a product. So you're not selling data, but you're selling possibility there. And that sparked the whole revolution in India about data being the next currency.
There's this story that you told me before, which was you went to Rajasthan and there's this whole thing around, going to the SIM card managers and tell me about that. Like you mentioned some bits of it just a few seconds ago, but what are some of the experiences you had on how people perceived, SIM cards and telecom and how did it change? How did you see it change over a period?
And like I said, I'm a sales guy, master as a marketing guy, because Vodafone and sales actually set the foundation for me as a person and how I think. See why it was a very pivotal time to be in telecom at that time. You will generally see, even in B schools, like take the IMAs or any big B school, you'll always hear the name, the Unilevers, the FMCG giants are the place where you start your career. Why telco is very interesting that time is telecom is the only industry, and I would say even today somehow, where every single person is your customer on the planet. Regardless of you driving a Ferrari, regardless of you being Shah Rukh Khan also uses Vodafone. I might also use Vodafone. Same customer, zero difference. उसको भी उतना ही network मिलेगा जितना मेरे को मिलता है उसके घर के नीचे. Right? So you're selling a product which you can't touch and feel. I'm promising you an experience which you can only experience once you become my customer. Other industries, there is a transaction, you're a customer, done.
Yeah.
In telecom, you're a customer for me for life. Every single second I have to wow you. The moment you pick up your phone and you see a signal less, yaar network nahi acha aa raha. Your brand experience changes every single time, right? So interestingly for me, when I was doing sales and I was going to ground, I was observing different consumer psyche and behavior. And remember, I'm selling the same SIM card, the same packs, everything else. You would see dynamics change every 10 kilometers. So like, for example, when I was in the story that you're asking me, I was in the markets in Rajasthan. And I remember, for the audience who not very technically savvy here, the way telecom works is basically there's a tower you would have seen around your society, and it radiates signals to your cell phone tower, which then connects centrally. Now, as per the government, you have to buy license from the government to be able to operate in a frequency. Okay? Government owns the frequency, they license it to you. Not everybody can start a certain signal. Now, depending on a certain frequency, you have to pay an amount to the government. So the most common frequency is 900 and 1800. So the smaller the number, the stronger the signal, but the shorter the range. So how it works is the government would auction every year and you would buy, depending on your affordability and budgets, the states where you have a stronger coverage, like a larger signal, you have to put half number of towers as a competition. It's the same service you're selling. I'm also selling 2G, you're also selling 2G. Customer ko nahi pata. But I have to put double the coverage just because the government has licensed me that spectrum. Customer doesn't understand this. So number one, there is absolute zero control. Second is, it is one of the only, like for example, if I'm selling RIN, okay, and I'll get the same RIN packet wherever I go to, or coffee packet wherever I go and buy. Telecom, my network will change every step. So back in the Nokia days, now I don't know how many of you can see this in the iPhone. In the Nokia days, if you go to your settings and network, and I'm telling you actual stories I used to do on the ground, the only arsenal I had was open my Nokia phone, go to settings and show people, compare this. I had a Airtel SIM also. Sir, look at the network. वहाँ पे दिखता था वो DB, like कितने decibel, sorry, I think hertz में, I forget the actual term, but it'll show you the signal strength. There was no data speed comparison, the speed test back then. वो सब आया 3G, 4G and all later on, right? पहले तो simple competition was on signal strength. And I had to go and show people that, sir, यहाँ पे इतना signal strength है, you have to, this is why you should buy a customer. And वो बेचारा गांव में सिम लेके घर तक पहुंच रहा है, उसका signal strength change हो रहा है. So there is very quick feedback loops in telecom, very, very quick feedback loops. And you see market shifts happening based on where you are. So I would see patterns like in some places where signal strength was good, customers would actually give their SIM cards to the shopkeeper who would have a farm of chargers. सबके phone लगा के वहाँ पे music download हो रहा है. और गाँव में 2-3 घंटे light आती है दिन में. So he would download music on everyone's phones and charge for that because they don't have supply in 1 hour, and they would pay extra 10 rupees for the day and go back home because the signal strength was not good there. So you had to keep looking at stories and narratives. Like then I feed back to my marketing team saying that, guys, let's talk about great data, great downloads, no matter where you are. I had to do fun demos. I had to literally, if I've seen your pictures and we can post some here, sit on top of auto rickshaws with a loudspeaker while the auto is going around the gaon, because ideas nahi those time. There was no ATL, BTL in a village, right? And go around the auto showing people, देखिए, 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 signal nahi toot raha hai, call chalte ja rahi hai, and people would still trust you and come on top of that purely because they're seeing a live demo of the network.
So you said something interesting in the Zuzu campaign sometime when we spoke last. There's this partners who are not yet married, but they are dating in a relationship, and they're recharging at night.
Right.
Tell us, how did you find that insight in the first place? I'm sure that is like a widely known thing today, but like, I think back then it was more hush-hush in India, right? So how did you find it, and how did you actually, I remember there's this whole campaign of unlimited minutes in the night or something like that. Tell us about that.
So there is a very popular term in internet and the startup world, which is called growth hacking. This is Sasta Sundar Tikau growth hacking example. Boss comes to us. See, I told you that I have to justify the cost I have paid for the license to the government. So my cost is fixed. Whatever revenue uplift I do on top of that. So if I bought a license for 100 rupees, I have to keep maximizing my revenue to 150 rupees, 200 rupees, 300 rupees. And that delta is my profit because my cost is fixed. Okay. Now the boss comes and says, boss, like team, you have to like improve the revenue. Okay. Now, how do you do that in a telco category? ठीक है, चलो किसी का साबुन बेच रहे हो आप, तो उसको बोल दो कि साबुन का नया वेराइटी आया है, नया परफ्यूम, ये थी, छोटा साइज, बड़ा पैकेट, थिंग्स लाइक दैट, राइट? आई कांट फोर्स यू टू टॉक मोर. लाइक इफ यू आर टॉकिंग 20 minutes a day, ठीक है, थोड़ा बहुत मैंने कर दिया that, like I'm giving you extra minutes to talk in the same recharge and stuff like that, I'll get you to talk. But as a human, मेरे को Vodafone आके बोलेगा कि यार तू और बात कर, और recharge कर. That doesn't work like that, right? So how do you increase that? That's where growth hacking comes in. Now, how does growth hacking as a concept work? Data. The underlying principle of hack is without making the consumer forcefully shift their behavior, can you analyze data and give small cues or create small interceptions in their behavior to drive revenue growth for you very, very quickly. Okay. So we started building cohorts, or basically cohorts means it's just slicing the entire usage data for the day. Okay. So we would see it, okay, is top metro cities mein people go to office. So they'll do some more calls while they're driving. Office mein the usage goes down. Evening is sometimes the call goes up because they're driving back. Sham ko aake thoda decline hota hai. And then raat ko certain cohort of customers started spiking up. Okay. Best part about Vodafone and telecom, you have data about everyone. It's the most personalized. It's like data gold mine. That's the best thing about telecom. Even more than Amazon. Amazon is one company that you hear like is sitting on crazy, more data than FBI does. But trust me, nobody has more data than the telecom carrier because you literally know their age, profile, city, location, time of calls, who you're calling to. So we would obviously, even back then, we would not disrupt privacy. We would look at aggregate level analytics. Okay, largely students or people between the age group of, let's say, 20 or 30 are doing more calls during this time of the time. And we also used to see a behavior that the calls would go to a certain region and then what is the spike times that happen? So we said, okay, clearly there's a pattern. Then we started talking to some people. And obviously customers are not comfortable, like, why are you looking at my records? But in general behavior. So that's where I learned the art of inciting, like really talk to customers without making them uncomfortable, get them to speak more about you. And we came up with an insight that there's a lot of college going students, young working professionals, males speaking to females, females speaking to males. So, theek hai, it could be, brother, sister talking to NX amount, but how much do brother, sisters talk. So we figured out some mechanism there. And that became the foundation for a growth hack is how do you give them special recharges? Like these people might actually want more packs for post-midnight usage when me as a brand has much lesser network utilization than compared to others. It's the same concept that you will see in bars, restaurants who will give you happy hours. It is nothing but the happy hours concept. Get more revenue per user in a period where there is less footfall. That's how that whole campaign and product was built.
You worked with Apple for almost 6 years. How was it working with the Apple team and how was it to work with Tim Cook?
I mean, I was under Tim, like everybody at Apple. Look, I'll tell you something about Apple. Apple has been the longest school stint of my career. That's how I would position it. I've learned so much from my time there. Every single day, I would get inspired. The leadership at Apple says that whenever somebody asks them in interviews or anything else that what do you want Apple to be? The Marcom team, especially at Apple, the leader, he says that I want Apple to be the most creatively inspiring brand on the planet. He doesn't say I want to be the maximum revenue driver in electronics, the biggest premium brand. He says creatively inspire people. It shows you how much creativity is in that company and that you can see the expression come into products and the way they communicate about products. So I felt passion around me every single day. I was already a, hustler, go-getter, passionate guy. But trust me, when I say this, I observe people who are calm and passionate. That mix was very unique for me. So for me, passion equal to energy. Karna hai, let's do this. And I remember coming from Flipkart and Amazon, I was like, let's do this, let's try this. Apple is like, what? Think. Do we really want to do this? And if you really want to do this, how would the customer experience it? How would they feel? Nobody had asked me a question in my career so far about how would a customer feel. Everybody says, how would a customer think? So that itself blew me. Like, are feeling ka to socha hi nahi yaar abhi tak? It was always about transactions. I think Apple taught me over 6 years is how can you wow a customer? And how can you simplify things? And when I joined Apple, I didn't really think I would stick around for so long. I thought 2 years, 3 years, put it on the resume, move around, do something else. That place wows you so much every single day because they hire the best talent for each role, the best talent that there could be for that function, and they give you one job to do, which many people find suffocating. But the one who's doing it is so passionate about it, he or she doesn't care about other things because they're all in. I think for me, 6 years was just getting inspired by people around me, and they hire some crazy people. There's one example I tell people that to watch what level does Apple go crazy. Apple is crazy, right? When Steve and the campaign sets the crazy ones, it is a bunch of crazy people. I'll give an example. There was an event in Gurgaon in the office, and our managing director was speaking to everybody, and there were some visitors who had come. Actually, the ex-CFO of Apple, Luca Maestri, was visiting India, and he was talking to all of us. And there was some security detail who had come and sitting in the corner, a hefty guy. I go up to him and classic FBI-looking guy, shades, just sitting They went up to him after the event. I'm like, hey, what's up? Where are you from? What are you doing? Very unspoken. He's not really showing his weight around, right? And I asked him, so what were you doing before Apple? Worked with the Obama family. He just casually mentioned that he was a security detail for Obama. And he was managing security for an exec of Apple coming in. So when they say they hire the best talent, they mean it. And he was passionate about what he was doing. And I spent about 40 minutes with him just understanding how he observes things, how he looks at people. And this was in the Apple office. It is not even outside. So imagine, because I was part of the time when Tim Cook came to India and he was going through the amount of planning and detail that goes into just thinking, from the time he steps down. When does the first picture show up on social media, which went viral with him, Madhuri Dixit eating that vada pav? What does Tim Cook say first? Who does he meet? How many seconds he spends on that one thing that he speaks to the government official? That careful planning, and trust me, even today, I'm not that good. At Apple, everybody feels like they don't belong because it's just the standards are so high. So you're always forced to keep pushing yourself because everyone around you is so damn good.
I'm gonna come to the Apple journey in very, very depth. I want to go to the Flipkart journey and this whole big billion day. And we have a memento somewhere here that you have brought in for the shoot, which is signed by Sachin and Binny Bansal on doing some stellar work during the first big billion day. And I want to understand what goes behind marketing standpoint. I know there's a lot of things that happen on Big Billion Day. Yeah. What goes behind on marketing, if you can tell me, especially when you were there at Mimides?
It is a story about imagining the unimaginable, right? Nobody had envisioned. See, things might have happened in China. China was probably ahead of e-commerce than us. But in India, first of all, as a category, nobody believed in shopping online. The first player that cracked e-commerce in India was IRCTC. IRCTC is the godfather of Indian e-commerce. It was our benchmark. I would actually daily look at Flipkart going up in ranks. IRCTC se upar jana, IRCTC se upar jana. That is the gold standard of online transactions. But it's a need-based thing. Now here, I am creating a need. I am creating a moment where I have to get a ton of people together at the same time, create demand for a set of products which I have offer, which are not different than what you get outside. I think the marketing problem there was very, very unique. You had to create a hype of a platform. When I say platform, like identity of a big billion days did not exist. So what does that mean? What does big billion mean? I mean, like beyond just being a very catchy name. And the biggest marketing problem there is like, how do you build up demand? Because marketing in general of all the big brands has been create sustained demand. Like take the Coke Pepsi example I spoke about earlier, that you keep giving marketing. So there's a cycle of customers coming in. Here, everything, like even if you have seen an ad, that's the challenge about these big sales, is that when do you peak your marketing? So you want the customer who has seen an ad 12 days before to also come on that day of the sale. He should remember sale starts at 5:30 p.m. Now, who remembers marketing things here? But I have to make him or her remind that the sale has to, even if you've seen the ad 12 days before. Also the customer on the morning of the sale starting in 3 hours, 4 hours. How do you change your media mix? How do you change your messaging over time so that everything culminates to that one big moment that the flash sale opens up and everything happens in order? And trust me, like the scale of marketing that Flipkart does right now is nothing compared. What it did then is nothing compared to what it does right now. Right now, it is a lot more bigger, but it was a lot more difficult that time because we were completely into the unknown debt.
What were some of the insights that really worked in the first PPD? Like I remember I was in, a friend of mine sent something on WhatsApp. WhatsApp was still there, I think 2015. Saying that pen drive is available at 2 rupees. And that became viral. And I go to Flipkart and I say, I don't see a pen drive at 2 rupees. I see hundreds of things. I bought also something. But apart from like being, limited by supply, what else worked?
There were things which are limited by supply, and there are things by design which are not limited. It's an artificial supply constraint that you create, right? But what does happen is that there is a price laddering that happens in any sale event. So for somebody who's never been in e-commerce, the concept is that as a seller, I have purchased, let's say 10 packs of a product, each for 100 rupees. And which means I have spent 1,000 rupees in total in a cost of the set of products. Now, in order to make this profitable, and e-commerce is not as profitable as, I'm making it, but I'm trying to explain the concept. I have to make 1,050 rupees or 1,100 rupees gross, combined value of both the input cost and the revenue I generate in the sale price. Okay. So net, I have to make 150 rupees from the total transaction value. Now, how does sale work? The insight that we learned and experienced is that you create hooks. The pen drive at 2 rupees example. So if I purchase 10 pen drives for 100 rupees each, the first 3 pen drives I will sell at 3 rupees or 2 rupees. So I'm making a huge loss there. But the other pen drives I will sell at a profit. So the laddering concept is that you start with a loss, a very unimaginable loss. Remember, my key line here is unimaginable price, shocking value, never seen before deal. And then when you get the customer, the word spreads. But always still keep it below the selling price of the offline shop. Okay, because you purchase in bulk, you also have price efficiency and the price has to ladder up. So net, I make some profit or a very little loss. And once I have the customer, why even do the sale in the first place? Because it is the perfect way in 2014, 2015 for India to experience e-commerce. My key objective that time was not to make money. My key objective that time was to acquire a customer, to get a customer to try e-commerce. यार देखो तो सही क्या होता है. Trust me, we did recording of videos of customer reactions. People in village were stunned that they can buy a branded Nike shoe sitting in their tier 2, tier 3 city when there were no Nike outlets in, Vishakhapatnam or like a Surat or I'm giving bad examples, but like a Tiruchirappalli, like these cities before. So suddenly the access to brands is opened up. You have the same access to brands like a Shah Rukh Khan does, then you are into. So e-commerce made that happen. And my job as a marketing person was to tell that story, the possibility story, that commerce is now not judging you based on the pin code you are.
I think I want to move to Apple. And Apple, when they entered in 2018, it was called not so much success. It was almost called like a failure, right? And it was like an epic failure. A global company which has insane revenue lines and insane love globally is not able to crack India. The product is looked more like a luxury. People don't know why to buy it. And if I fast forward that to like 7 years, we are in 2025. I mean, look at us. Apple sale has crossed HUL sale in India. Everyone has iPhones all over. Like if you look at like even people who cannot afford it have it on an EMI. What has really worked apart from everything else on the EMI side and all? But I think what has really fundamentally worked for Apple to turn around this story? Give us context and then also tell us what worked.
See, the Apple growth story in India, and I was fortunate to be there at the time when it was defined, is a combination of three things the way I see it. Great product. You have to start from a great product. If that wasn't the case today, they would not be repeat customers for Apple. So it's an amazing, amazing product, and not just a great product, a great ecosystem in itself. Great value. And I'll come on that a little bit. That was the biggest differentiator for Apple in India, great value. Third is great communication, but I would sprinkle a very strong component of tremendous luck on all of this. The economy helped. The growth, post-COVID growth, the affordability helped, but we were very smart how we leveraged it. Coming to marketing, I'll tell you a story. So when I joined Apple 2018, there is a very interesting research team in Apple. It's based out of Cupertino. They do this research globally, the consumer insights team. They don't have a lot of local teams because like it's done centrally, but they work with the local teams, the local marketing teams. So very small 3-member team, and they do a lot of this study. And one of the big studies that they run every year, even now, it's called the the love-like scoring model. So what it means is that they go to each market for Apple in the world and they measure on a scale how many customers love the brand, like the brand, and then below the scale is who don't like. It doesn't matter the degree of likeness, but they dislike the brand. So these are what many terms call it net promoter score or other terms. But to simplify, Apple likes to simplify things, they call it the love-like thing. There is an NPS for product, but this is a brand metric that Apple looks at. And I remember seeing this chart in front of me. The love-like scores, India was higher than US. India was the second rank in the world, only after Dubai. Dubai has a lot of money. So leave that aside. India being number 2 in the world for Apple globally in love plus like scores. But when you look at revenue and market share, right? That is my brief that I worked on for 6 years. And the team that we were part of worked on. How do you convert this love for a brand, this passion, and there is that emotion that exists for a brand into something which you would take out a wallet for? That's the marketing problem. Now, how is that different than what Apple had done so many years? I wouldn't say Apple was a failure in India. I think Apple was phenomenally successful in India in the luxury category. It was just that when we started, and I mean, when I also joined and I observed this. And then what followed after that is we realized and we uncovered, and this is before, I mean, now everybody's talking about premiumization. Apple started that journey long back, and we were the ones who were the catalyst behind that premiumization wave, especially in the electronics segment, is value creation. Okay. We realized that Indians are actually extremely value conscious. They don't mind paying money for something they believe value is in there. Okay. And we spent a lot of time talking to customers, unpacking insights, looking at brands that they were consuming, is how they would perceive value and then make purchase decisions. We started building pillars. of what matters to an Indian consumer. We looked at interesting things like search patterns. Like when somebody goes to Flipkart, what do they type when they are looking for a phone? Many users type best build quality, best camera, best video phone. People don't only type that best phone in 50,000 rupees. That's a very common search term. But we started looking at these search terms we were indicating behavior. So at Apple, we spent a lot of time, not just on data, but initially on behavioral metrics. सोच क्या रहा है बंदा? What is his heart saying that before he or she would make a purchase decision? Because on the basis of that, I would marry those elements to my product features. That is the marketing magic that Apple does. It's the same product which is sold globally, but you have to build a narrative around each of the features of the product that attracts you as an individual when I'm building and satisfying a need that exists, or even better, when I'm showing you things that are possible which are not even a need. If I'm able to create value and create possibility, I keep multiplying value as I'm able to do it. So there are different layers in the system. First is I meet your need, I start lifting up the value. So you say, okay, I can afford 10,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees, 50,000 rupees. I keep pushing you up by saying that, okay, if you spend just an extra 5,000 rupees, you get to get the best picture of your babies right now, because remember, you might be saving 10,000 rupees on a poor camera, but your child's pictures are precious when you look back 50 years later. So I'm looking at now, oh my God, that's why a camera is important. And we started looking what matters to people. A big lever that we played for a long time in Apple, very, very core to India, is durability. Can I throw my phone or not? Be in peace. We used to pride ourselves so much on the product, and Apple, we used to say product is the hero. That it is all about the product, what's possible, and storytelling around the product by actually showing people in extreme situations. I mean, you've seen there is a very famous series of ads on Apple, like the oops, you will see somebody walking on the streets, their phone slips and it bounces around. Things like that really worked. And that's the example that you see in The Craft, where we talk about why we made a Bollywood movie on an iPhone, where people are like, if I can make a Bollywood movie off an iPhone, which usually needs cameras worth 50 lakh rupees, 1 lakh is nothing for this, right? And nobody's going to make a Bollywood movie on an iPhone, but they're buying it for what's possible and out there. So I think that was something that from a marketing lens, we learned.
So you mentioned about this Bollywood movie that you shot with Vishal Bharadwaj as the director, using an iPhone, and you compared a 50 lakh camera used for Bollywood movies to a 1 lakh device, which is an iPhone. Yeah. So I want to first show the audience the actual movie and the trailer of that movie and how it was shot, and a lot of interesting behind the scenes of this.
ये क्या है?
दूरदर्शक।
दूरदर्शक?
दूर का दर्शक ये भविष्य में झांक सकता है।
Not again, please.
You have to trust me. I saw the future. ये देखो 7.5 मिनट बचे हैं. 28 सेकंड, 27, 26, 25.
Show me how it works. आपका भविष्य कुछ ज्यादा अच्छा नहीं है.
So how did this come to life? Like, what was like the convincing part to, say that, hey, let's put some money on this. Let's actually do this with like a Bollywood director. Because I mean, money is not a constraint, but like why? And as you said, right? Like you have 1,000 ideas, you're above the 999 ideas out of them, and you go after that one idea and commit to it and have the conviction. How did you build conviction around this? Because this has not been done in like US or other markets, right? This was the first of its kind done for India.
So remember, I was telling you that there are certain pillars that Apple follows internally. So some of the pillars that Apple values is music, culture, supporting independent artists, originality, creativity. Like these are the internal pillars, examples of internal pillars that Apple would have. And then there is pillars that Indian traditions are valued. So movies, cricket, music, religion. Some of these things are so core to India. And everything has a reason behind it. So it is not like we just got up and like, let's make a movie. The brief was, there is an amazing new set of camera lenses that has come, and the camera system is potentially capable of doing. How can you push the limits so much in an Indian scenario and get people to feel the difference and entice them enough to try it, walk into the stores? I'm again telling you, at Apple, we never pushed people to buy. My CTA, my target is here for people to walk into a store, buy, of course, great, but at least come into the store and pick it up and try it. You will obviously not create a Bollywood movie, but I'm showing you what's possible. Okay, so I have to push the limit on what's possible. What had happened so far is short films, very, very common. And Apple started this in since many years, and everybody copies, like companies like Oppo and all, like shamelessly copied this template, and you will see a shot on iPhone copied by every single brand right now. So we had to do something different. We had to break the clutter. We had to do something very Indian. याद रखने का लोगों को कि यार एप्पल ने इंडिया में कुछ काम करा है, okay? And especially in Apple, ideas would come. I don't remember where the idea came from originally, but everyone agreed together that Bollywood is very core to India. So initially we thought, and there was some inspiration. So in China, Apple does a short film called for Chinese New Year every year. So in the world, Chinese team used to do that every year. We took that as an inspiration. But we wanted to do it Indian style. So we said, let's make a movie only on an iPhone. But this time we also, because in movie, Indian culture is also about who's making the movie, who's music in it. And we were like, let's go all in. So somebody like a Vishal Bhardwaj, big guy, shooting on a tiny device and only on a tiny device, right? Music by Sukhwinder. Wedding songs. If you see, there's the album. Like I tell people, I love the Fursat album. If you can, download that album, listen to it. Like the hard work that has gone, even in the creation of the music. And this is a musical. It's very core to Indian cinema, right? And it's a long, long film. And it's abstract. It's about boundless imagination, putting in rough conditions. So, but the brief is you have to showcase the camera. You have to showcase durability. You have to showcase new features. Remember, because everybody establishes iPhone as the best camera every year. But a very common thing that we also hear from the ground is like, "Isme naya kya hai?" And there are memes around it. Like it's the same camera setup that comes every year. So it was a business problem we had to solve for, a consumer problem that we had to show them what's different. So the action mode was released this year. Stabilization, you could see it in the face. These are the things that we would tell somebody like a Vishal, that how do you capture that in use cases beyond just making a film. So the product is core to this movie. And the idea was to make things grand, that people will not remember the entire movie altogether, but they'll remember some story. Some might just remember it for the story. Some might remember it for the characters. Ishan Khattar was obviously the rising sensation that time. Vamika Gabbi is now doing so well, and this is one of the early works she had done. And it was, in India, movies last. People remember films. People remember stories. So people just enjoy watching movies, and I think that everything just culminated together for us at that time. For us, to get the Android users to come in and just pick up the iPhone camera and experience it.
Apple has a very interesting strategy on how they create hype. I think everyone tries to do saying, I'll do less supply, I will do, sale for Friday, I will do 500 things, right? What is that core structure to building hype? Of course, one is product innovation, like have something to offer so good that people care and people want to jump on it. But people being in lines at Apple stores when the new iPhone launches, I mean, and it's also happening in India now with the Mumbai store and the other stores that are opening. What's really behind this? Like, what is this hype structurally and how it is created for every single product that Apple launches?
See, there is a legacy involved here. Let's be honest. I mean, a new brand can't do it overnight. There have been some examples. I was lucky to be part of the OnePlus launch at Amazon as well. And there are brands who have done this decent amount. Nothing compares to Apple, right? It is because of some very strong element of legacy. But there is this term that we use at Apple religiously. It's called surprise and delight. That's a core emotion and culture at Apple. What can you do to surprise a customer and delight? A lot of people focus so much time on the hype creation that they don't spend as much time on the reveal. I've seen this day in and day out. People will think, buzz kaise create karna hai, virality, things like that, right? But trust me, if you create a great immersion and an experience so that people come out and say, hype was worth it, man. That's when your next hype will be even bigger. So Apple is the hype creating machine today because it has delivered on that hype year on year.
When you say delivered, what do you mean?
The surprise element of the new product, the possibility of what you can do with every single product is just continuously rising a notch higher and more. And I know people are debating right now about the innovation and things like that. I mean, I agree. I mean, there's stages in companies' life, but let's be honest. Consistently innovating for a long period of time has earned Apple a reputation where when you are standing outside the line, I remember 2018, my first launch, iPhone XS and iPhone XR, the XS and the XR that people remember. When I first went to a partner store, this is not even an Apple store. At that time, the Bombay, Delhi stores were not there. The Apple Premium Reseller store. There were drums outside, people dancing, standing in line. There was an MC. And I was like, what's happening, man? Like, they're coming to buy a phone. They're coming to give money to us. Why are they celebrating? Because it's the joy of what you can do. And you will see this social barrage after people discover, like, oh my God, what a camera. Oh my God, yes, this display is so much amazing. Like, even something as small as dynamic island, like, look at the detail in this that's gone into it. So it's the amount of work, not just in creating hype, but how do you create that experience of what happens after that hype really helps you in your next hype. Number one. The second thing I would say is Apple will never overpromise and underdeliver. You will see this attribute in Apple. Apple's a very quiet slayer. They will be very shy about, they do great marketing, but they're very shy about over-promoting their products. You will actually see the hype coming from a loyal fan base, which is constantly expanding. Let them talk. I think it is about that immersion that you do and let others go crazy about it.
I want to show you a video on Twitter, now X. There's this guy, I'm going to literally show this to you. There's this literally guy whose mom is a shop, who has a shop of selling flowers, okay?
Oh yeah, I remember this video.
And he literally asked his mom, who sells flowers,
right,
to buy an iPhone, right? And I'm just going to show this to you.
से आए हो? रोजा पे से आए हो? तो हमारे दुकान पे कैसे आना हुआ आपका? इंस्टाग्राम वीडियो फेमस है। अच्छा, तो इतने सारे पैसे लेकर आए हो, तो किस लिए लेकर आए फोन? आईफोन खरीदने के लिए। आईफोन खरीदने के लिए क्या हो? अच्छा, ये पैसा मम्मी दी है या आप सच बता रहे हो मंदिर से बेच के खरीदे हो? दुकान पर का ये सच बोल रहा है? इसको पैसा आप दी है या आप? हम बाबू दिए। इसको पैसा आप दिए? तो कह रहे हैं कि मंदिर में फूल बेचते हैं, ये सच बात है?
फूल पत्ती हम बेचीला भैया, ये खाली हमसे 3 दिन से खाना ना खाता हूँ।
अच्छा, ये खाना नहीं खा रहे? आईफोन के लिए खाना नहीं खा रहे?
नहीं।
तो आप इनको आईफोन दिला रही हैं, आप खुश हैं?
खुश है, बाकी इतना पैसा हमके लिया के दिए।
इतना पैसा मम्मी को आप ला के दोगे, ठीक है? बोलो, लो भाई को आईफोन दो। लो यार, मम्मी को पसंद करे भाई, फोन खरीद रहा आईफोन। ये है भाई आईफोन लवर का पावर। लो भाई, अनबॉक्सिंग करो, ये पैसा दो, सील्ड खोलो।
इतना दूर. And I think There is like a interesting thing about India when it comes to Apple compared to the US, where Apple is like common in US, right? It's not something that people notice.
Yeah.
70% of iPhones that were bought in India are bought on EMIs.
Right.
How did they get into this whole idea that, like, in marketing we are taught like sell to customer who has money, but now Apple has been able to do. There's some good part and bad part about this, honestly, on the EMI side, on the personal loan side. But I'm just going to take the good part for this conversation, and how you have been able to create that aspiration for somebody who doesn't even have the money to even think about a product like this.
Yeah, let's cover both good, bad part because I have an interesting view there. And I remember this video very well because I remember I had just left Apple when this video surfaced, and I shared this with the team. And my message to them was, congrats, we are now a cultural change in India and not just a brand. Apple is now part of culture in India. Let's be honest. I'm proud of being part of the team that has built Apple into the cultural shift that we are today. And it's no longer about owning a product. It's about being part of a revolution. Remember, I said early on, a very strong aspect of Lady Luck sprinkling over Apple's story. There is some element of this here. In the Bharat, the tier 2 and tier 3 India, thanks to e-commerce and everything else, we enabled them access to a product like this. And through Apple directly, through Apple's online stores, through Flipkart and Amazon, working with them, that's something that I did, worked on a lot of time, is how do you get it to more and more people's hands out there? Now, many people on the internet jump and react, what is this? Yeah, you're forcing somebody and you're brainwashing them to spend higher than they can afford and literally take loans and stuff like that. There are some stories which are not as bright as sunshine. But trust me when I say this, because I've spent so much time on the ground, there is a reason why that guy is doing it. It is that Lady Luck is the shift in Indian culture about main bhi kar sakta hoon. What is Gen Z about? What is tier 2 and tier 3 story about in India today? For any brand, not just Apple. It is about everybody now not being limited by the pin code. It is about the story of you can do it too. That's the underlying principle that every brand is playing on. And Apple was lucky to have started that journey long back. Now, what would have happened? In his village, he would have seen some creator get a third 3-year-old iPhone, an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 8 or an iPhone 11, get better quality videos on his TikTok reels, and TikTok, full credits to TikTok for getting that short video revolution in India. The fastest growth in India in content creation is coming from tier 2 and tier 3. Even I love watching that content. It's so hooky, right? The iPhone has a studio quality mic array on it. I'm getting into technicalities, but it mattered. The guy does not need to invest in this to get his audio captured properly. With the iPhone, it is equal to this. So when he's in his village making a video, it is like he has Bollywood set up in his hands. And this guy has seen some creator make a killing on making videos because he or she went viral. Some brand said, Hamara bhi karo. Some FMCG brand said, talk about this product placement. He earned 20,000 rupees per post. Now he's making 3 lakhs rupees per month sitting in his village when he's just selling flowers. He's buying hope. And is he wrong? That's where the rest of the narrative comes in. He can, if he fails, God forbid he fails, he can sell that iPhone next year for 70% of the price. He can't do that with an Android phone. He'll lose money on that. So we enabled India to live their dream with a great product, with a great access, a great price point, and the ability with the product to tell a narrative and giving them a platform with all those things I spoke to you about.
I have a funny question.
Yeah.
There are stories online about people returning their iPhones, right? Like buying and returning.
Yeah.
And returning with mangoes in them. Is it
Yeah.
true?
That is, you defined my JD in Flipkart. So I'm proud to say I was part of the team that tried to solve that problem. This was the time on the internet when the mangoes went viral. I was part of Project Mango. That was called the project in Flipkart. Because when we started, and I'll tell you more fun things, it was not just mangoes. iPhones had the highest return rate in in e-commerce. Okay. We started looking analysis, data. Insights came out there that a large chunk of teenagers were buying iPhones just around their farewell parties.
Very interesting.
And just the moment the farewell would get over, the iPhone get returned. Because on the night of the farewell party, I have to show my iPhone around. I have to click pictures and next day, like, I didn't touch it. And there are other category of people who would just replace, because that time the logistics in Flipkart levers used to be like on the weight basis. So they would carefully choose a mango to be the same weight as the iPhone 7 so that they can replace it in the box and send it. I mean, that's when we started doing those delivery checks, and now open box delivery has come for a reason in Flipkart, which is very, very popular. So all these are based on user insight. But yes, iPhone is the perfect guinea pig for all frauds in the country.
Apple is valued at 2 lakh crores, just the India business. And you mentioned something about the brand being loved. What do you really mean when you say loved? And how did you do that for Apple?
A great thing and a trait about Apple is that we would build the brand architecture and the importance of making a brand or a sub-brand bigger. So many companies work like that, right? Like, there'll be a master brand, then there are sub-brands, and while you're building the sub-brand, there is some bit of rub out of the master brand. Tata is a great example that, a very common one as well, but Apple is the next level of Tata. People have so much respect in Tata and the sub-brands as well, but in Apple's case, people have blind faith in the Apple brand. So we would, while we are building unique propositions, platforms, marketing stories for each of the brand, like an iPhone is a very different story than an iPad. Very, very different story on an Apple Watch. But somewhere you would have this sentiment, in Apple we trust. So tomorrow if Apple launches a new product, a feeling that an Indian consumer we want them to evoke is actually very similar to a Tata. Tata ka hai na? Same, it is the next level. Apple ka product hai, try to karna hi karna hai, because I know what the experience, it'll be a magical experience. So I drew a similarity to Tata because in India, the value of, one is the value of value, but the value of trust is also very, very high. And in India, you can break trust very, very quickly. So we focused a lot on trust building, not just in communications, but in on-ground experience as well. The way we distributed our service centers, our partners. I would spend so much time with my sales team in the Flipkart offices discussing the fulfillment journey of a product being delivered to the customers. We would have a strong say on how that happens at Flipkart. So not many people remember the first iPhone big launch that happened on Flipkart was the iPhone 7. It was launched in a black color. It was a new, nice matte black color. And Flipkart actually went the extra mile and built a custom box completely in black around the the iPhone box. And on top of that, it was just one line. It says, you know what this is. So it is about how do you create that. I can't even tell this to you. You feel that it's an Apple product. You can't wait to open it. And it's the same thing at a service center. Obviously, now with a lot more customers, service center is a lot more crowded. But the way you're handled at a service center is very different than you walk into a Samsung service center or a Xiaomi service center. Like, don't even get me started there, right? A retail store. My channel and sales team would actually be anal about the placards that are kept on the table when a customer walks in. Depending on the product priority for India, that city and that demographic, we would change what's written on the placard. One project which we spent a lot of time doing, and I remember working with the US teams for months on, and it sounds so stupid and simple, is for an Android user walking into a store, without even asking them you're an Android user, we would have a simple placard that says, why switch to iPhone? Just 4 reasons, 4 or 5 reasons, very, very simple. We spent months thrashing that out. what are the 4 reasons that would make an Android user think? My job is to just make them think. That's my marketing task. I don't want you to buy. Think, consider, touch. The moment you touch my product, you feel the weight. Not in figuratively, you feel the weight of the brand. And the interesting thing is, there is something called as a demo experience of the product. The iPhone is designed to demo itself in a store. There is a large team whose job is to just design the demo app that's there, the screens which are there on the iPhone. So even if an executive is not, like they're busy, you walk into a store, when you pick up an iPhone or any product like an Apple Watch or a Mac, it'll show you, try this new feature set, click here. These are the new photographic styles that have come in this iPhone. It allows you to play, gently nudges you. So trust is built when I focus more on the brand. Like there is consistent trust being built in the brand, and I'm delivering it at all touch points. It doesn't matter if I do some flashy marketing, if I just put money in IPL campaigns, but I have a horrible in-store experience, my customer will not trust me. And that's what I referred to as earlier at Apple. When we would design every single thing, even the training for our Apple store employees on how to train, we would actually question, would Apple talk like this or no? So it was always about Apple, the brand, and then comes the product that the values are driven.
You mentioned something interesting. When the first launch of iPhone happened on Flipkart, that Flipkart built a whole black cover saying, this is what you've been waiting for. And that's beautiful copy that was written on the packaging. I've also seen engineers at GrowthX not throwing away their MacBook Pro boxes, even after there's no use of those boxes, apart from keeping it as like a paperweight, right? I've seen people keep the iPhone boxes intact since the first iPhone that they got. Of course, there's some level of brand love, but I have seen Apple consistently build unboxing experiences. If I'm a marketer, how do I build these experiences? How do I think through? What is my starting point?
It's tough to answer the specific question around just packaging, but I think let's go a little up and see the underlying principle behind it, which is the same that I covered a while back: surprise and delight, and a crazy passion for perfection and attention to detail. It is mind-numbing how much time is spent on thinking for the smallest things at Apple. So look, I've been a student at Apple. I've not been part of the design team, but whenever somebody joins in the marketing team at Apple, and only for the marketing team at Apple, it's such a unique club, they do a 1-week immersion in Cupertino. So they tell you when you join, literally, I was told, don't think, don't do anything, don't even go and meet anybody in sales. So in Gurgaon, the sales team sits on a separate floor and marketing sits on a separate floor, and the access is limited. And first time in my career, I was stunned that somebody's telling me not to work. It's like a detox. When somebody joins marketing at Apple, you're supposed to forget what you know. You retain the skill sets, the expertise, forget what you know about brand, forget what you know about marketing, see how we do things. So there is something called as immersion. And what happens at immersion is that the leaders of each function, which has some contact with marketing and product launches, they take you through a session. I wish I could show this to the viewers, but it has been the best masterclass of my life. That 1 week of how I saw things, how they work. And there are 2 sessions I remember uniquely in that. The first is packaging and the other is music, but maybe the music story for another day. Packaging. So, when any product launches in Apple, the work on that product starts roughly 1 year before. And while there are iterations, so what goes into a product? There is packaging, the hardware inside the box, the software inside the phone, features and things like that, right? And then the marketing communications for that product. So it goes in this order. The packaging is what gets finalized the first for Apple, before hardware, because that is the longest turnaround cycle. You have to get the factories ready. You have to source the paper that goes into the box. You have to please the design. Super confidential. Everything is so confidential. You can't leak it out. So when the product vision is set, the first people they speak to is packaging. Now, why do people not throw the package? Like from a distance, it actually seems very, very similar. But if you look closely, the way they choose the paper, the thickness of the paper, the weight of the paper, the air gap between the outer layer of the paper and the inner layer of the cardboard, everything, it is an exact secondage that when you pick up the box, it should automatically slide based on the weight. And every new iPhone box has a unique imprinting and style that is only unique to that product. Most other phones, now the companies have started to try and copy, but trust me, nobody does it the way Apple does it. And there is a reason why people preserve it, because it is a fingerprint of that product. It makes the Apple purchase complete. And the Apple products are the number one resale products in the world in the electronics category. People love buying secondhand products from Apple. So whenever you sell a product, you will see this common pattern. And viewers who are watching this show, I ask you to open OLX or a Facebook marketplace. You and I've done this hundreds of times. When you post a picture of a secondhand iPhone with a box and without a box, the value changes. People are willing to pay extra value for the box because one, I mean, obviously in India, they feel like you've not stolen the iPhone from anybody else, but also that the second-hand customer feels like it's their new iPhone. They get to experience that joy. So people, the crazy ones like me, actually even preserve the paper shell covering the iPhone. So when I actually sell my older products, I cover it again and I give it to the new person. You should see their faces. They're willing to pay 2,000 rupees more because they feel like it's their first Apple product. Your second question, how can others do it? See, you can't always copy because Apple also has a lot of resources available, right? So it's not just as easy as getting the best paper, sourcing manufacturer in the world and things like that. But I would say it's about the little things. And as any marketer, as any product manager, as an engineer, the tiniest things matter. And customers remember this. Like you've heard famous stories about when you take out the SIM card tray in Apple, what goes inside the SIM card tray is also paid attention to. Because you might remove the SIM card tray once in your usage of the phone. But when you do, you remember the quality of the rubber that goes in, how the color, the same color is matching the external color. The titanium is reflecting and shining the same way. So if no matter which size and scale you're operating in, if you can deliver art in your customer experience, you can do magic. So as a founder, as somebody who's a young startup or a marketer, think about except the emotional internet audience who erupted looking at it.
There's an interesting thing that's happening right now, which is AI getting into marketing a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you and I spoke about it offline. Will we see a lot more people getting into marketing now, considering that a lot of things are getting non-human? I think taste will still remain. That's my personal opinion.
Right.
But a lot of the executional stuff on marketing, which is the larger part of marketing, honestly. Like thinking, I think, is 5-10% of the team anyways, right? You just have to get people to buy into that, right? So how do you think marketing will change now?
Oh, marketing will change dramatically. And I think for the good. I have seen this firsthand. We use a lot of AI and I have seen the early days of AI, even at a company as large as Apple, which is very resistant to change and very careful of change, trying things. Iterations will become a lot more faster. Prototyping, you're already seeing that, right? So a lot of people have thoughts in their heads, but they're not able to show it to people. So storytelling will become easier. People who are not in marketing will be able to tell marketing how they're envisioning the story or the brand narrative behind this. Amazon has a very famous principle. It's called the PR FAQ document, where the product manager is supposed to be, even before it comes to anybody else in the team, the product manager is supposed to work on a document. It's called PR, which is press release and frequently asked questions. And the document is supposed to capture how, when you launch the product, even before you build it, when you finally launch the product, how would you launch it to the press? So the vision has to come. Now, instead of just a document, you'll see visuals. The product manager. So I think it's going to be a very, very hard job for the leader. I actually feel execution will become easier. A lot of people feel leadership is going to become like a lot more quicker, faster. No, the leader has to, the CMO or the marketing director has to set the vision of roles and responsibilities, who will do what, how to bring in some other opinion into marketing. But I think internal storytelling and external prototyping will become a lot more easier and quicker.
Very interesting. If I'm a marketer, starting my career in Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, wherever companies are, what marketing rules I should break?
Don't chase visuals. I'm guilty of this, I'll tell you. I'm a very visual heavy guy. Most of us are. Like, as human beings, a visual excites like stimuli in your brain the quickest. Reading is the least. Like, it takes a lot of time, but you preserve reading the most, which is why retaining visuals is the toughest. So even I'm inclined to quickly see visuals, build visuals, and most marketing folks, we discuss ads so much, right? All the time, creatives. Most people in LinkedIn, including me, have ads as part of their thing. Chase thoughts. Chase briefs. The first thing I did with my team when I joined as a CMO, and Apple conditioned me to do it, I started my first slide in an intro to my team, and I said, nail the brief first. People jump to ideas and creatives, and you see young people, even people I hired, ye kar sakte hain, this is what we can do, this is how we can blow up on social. I think young marketers, that AI cannot change. Because I'll tell you, the biggest skill set I'm picking up as a marketing guy right now is prompt engineering. Even as a prompt engineer, you need to put in your structure and thoughts. The AI can't do it for you. It's the brief to the prompt is a brief, essentially, right? So anybody who's using ChatGPT or Claude today is writing a brief in that box. And young marketers need to nail the brief. So if you start with a visual and not start with the thought, you're in for trouble later on, because you will always be stuck at iterating on the creatives versus being very clear on how to filter creatives. So what somebody like a Tor in Apple did really well for all of us. See, he would just ask us for the brief first, and he would evaluate. He said, I'm not a creative expert. You guys come up with 100,000 ideas. I'm going to filter. And filtering is a muscle you build over time, which you picked up in your early years to clear and clarify the brief repeatedly.
So somebody who's entering new into workforce and looking at marketing, what are different marketing styles that are out there? Especially when you look at mid-senior leadership and senior leadership, what are some of the things that they should keep in mind? Would love to understand your thoughts on that.
There are many unlimited types of marketing styles, and some unique, some hybrids of each other. But largely, I would say, think of them in few categories. Safe, cautious, value-based marketing, where you build long-term brand value or a company value step by step. Hyper-growth, aggressive marketing, where you're looking at virality, driving fast growth. Then there is a hybrid of the two. And then there are many permutations and combinations of this. So I have been fortunate to experience many of them through my journey and career. And I feel that people who are starting out their journey in marketing right now should not bucket themselves in one style. You should make an active effort to be in situations which need different types of styles. So don't think of yourself as an individual. You will figure it out over time. You're not so smart to figure it right now. None of us are when we start our career. But expose yourself. Even if you look at my career, the only active decision I have made, which I have tried to differentiate from many others who follow the similar path, is I have never worked for the same industry again. Even today, every choice I make in my career shift, I would make myself super uncomfortable in a completely unrelated environment, unrelated situation, different audience segment, different growth phase of a company, and a different business challenge at the end. Only then I can build a new marketing muscle inside of me as a person. So I think for people who are starting out, it's always day zero. You have to reset and start up.
Very interesting. What's your marketing style?
I feel while I've done traditional value-led, straight-jacketed marketing, the Unilever style of marketing, but I am somebody who enjoys disruption. I'm good at brand building. I really, really enjoy building brands for the long term, and I know what goes behind it. But I can really add value to situations or somebody who's looking at changing the game. That excites me. Changing consumer behavior in an existing or a new category that the consumers haven't never experienced. And if you see my career, introducing e-commerce in India, the mobile data revolution, the advent of advertising in Amazon, or building a premium experience in a market where the category and the consumer was at 1/10 the price point. So I love hard challenges. And hard challenges force you to think disruptive, but still build value for the long term because it's not something that you're playing. So I play the long game and with some credit.
Very interesting. You talk about long game. I look at your journey. The largest amount of time or the longest you've spent is at Apple.
Right.
How do you think about early on in your career?
Yeah.
Spending more time at the right companies versus figuring out more companies in the early 20s. How would you advise somebody who's in 20s?
So a lot of people from colleges reach out to me with that question, and I have a very simple answer. You should stick around in a company as long as you can. You should not stick around in a stagnant situation or a role or a problem. Get out as fast as you can. And there's a difference. What I actively did forget marketing days. I was a developer coder when I started my career. But I started storytelling early on. I forced myself to be placed into situations where I was presenting what I had built. That's where the birth of marketing came in when my manager pushed me ahead. And I probably would have not lasted for Apple because for me, Apple was 6 different companies in 6 years. Now it is a very different situation because Apple has reached a level of auto mode where it was. And that's the only reason why even I moved out. But trust me when I say this, we had a new problem every year. The first year for me was, kya bade, let's try it, right? Completely new playbook. So it's the birth of a playbook. Second year was, oh, this is working. Let's build upon this. Third is, iPhone's okay. What about the 5 other products, man? Fourth year was, oh wow, now we are growing. How do we sustain this? And the fifth year was, what can we disrupt with storytelling? Because now everybody is copying what we did for the last 5 years. It was 5 different companies, 5 different situations. And had that not happened, I would have left long back. So stick in a company, change the situation.